Marnus Broodryk. Most of you know him. He's a top and very successful South African entrepreneur. He went from cutting grass and washing cars in Harrismith to creating one of the most valued and successful accounting firms in South Africa, the Beancounter. Since then, he's bought and sold more than 3 tech companies, a glass company, a construction company, and even a vegan restaurant. In 2016, he was the youngest ever investor on the international TV show Shark Tank. And afterwards, he authored a bestseller, 90 Rules for Entrepreneurs. So sit back, it's a real honor for us to have him on the show, and enjoy this episode of Rapid Fire Q&A. Marnus, thanks for your time. It's a real privilege having you on our show, the Rapid Fire Q&A on Unscripted CEO. You know how it works. We're going to jump straight into it. 20 questions, raw and uncut. Okay, amazing. You're ready? Ready. Perfect. So question number 1. Since Shark Tank aired in 2016, you've not only sold the Beancounter, but also bought it back. But you've also joined one-way video recruitment software platform, Wamly. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so after 2016 Shark Tank, I had this opportunity and this platform where I wanted to give back to other entrepreneurs. And I did that for 2 years where I felt that I wanted to give back. I wrote a book, I shared my lessons. And then after 2 years, I said, what I really enjoy is to build companies, to be in the background, not to be in front of the camera. I want to be in the background building businesses. And then I decided I want to take a sabbatical for 6 months, and then I want to start a business again, and I want to grow something that I really wanted to do. And that was at the end of 2019. So I planned my sabbatical, I had amazing trips booked, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't go anywhere. And I decided to start up, or at least get involved in a new business. And I made a list of stuff that I want in my new business. Tech company, we must be an international product, and 8 more things. And then I started looking at opportunities. And one of the opportunities that I looked at was a company called Wamly. And Wamly is a one-way video interview software, like you said. And what it does is, instead of you interviewing people and wasting a lot of time in interviews, instead of doing that, you would enter questions in our app. You will send that to hundreds, thousands of candidates, and they will do interviews, but without you being present. And we used that in my accounting firm about 2 years prior to me looking at that opportunity. And it completely changed our accounting firm. Before that, it took us 3 months to hire an accountant. And we started using Wamly, and literally in a week, we could hire someone, because we could go through hundreds and thousands of applications to really the best of the best candidates and invite them in for face-to-face interviews. It would never be a disappointment, and we would hire them. So yeah, in 2020, I made contact with the founder, Francois de Vet. I said to him, listen, I want to join this company. It changed our business. I think we can do a lot more. And I got involved with Wamly.
Question number 2. In 2018, you used Wamly in your accounting firm, as you mentioned, in the Beancounter. How has the app evolved since then?
Yeah, 2018, it was a very simple app, very MVP, minimum viable product that the founder launched at that stage. And since then, we've grown. We're now in 18 different countries around the world. We've had so many lessons, and especially in the last year since I've joined, we really scaled up the company. We've got our own dev team that's just building the product every day. We've built systems and processes and people around it. So the company has fundamentally changed, and yeah, the app has also fundamentally changed.
Question number 3. It said that 50% of recruitment decisions that companies make are failures. Appointing an individual that does not perform as required can be a costly exercise. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think 50% is surprisingly low. I think we're not great at making decisions, hiring decisions. HR people, entrepreneurs, business owners, line managers, we're terrible. Why? because we invite someone in, they come in for an interview, it's a lacquer, we have a nice chat and we think that they're going to fit the role, and they don't. Why? Because we forgot about everything that makes a person good for a role, like personality, cognitive abilities. So we look at the wrong things, we make the wrong hiring decisions. We're so desperate to hire, we just put someone in the position. But it's super costly. Any entrepreneur will tell you that the biggest expenses that they've had in their business was because of hiring the wrong people. So yeah, I think 50% is definitely a low number. I think that number should be a lot higher, and it's super costly.
What's the biggest challenge that you guys currently have in the business?
I think after building a number of businesses and then coming back and really hustling this as a startup, not completely from the start. I came in when the journey was like 2 years old, but I just realized how difficult it is again to build a business. Once you've built a business and it's big and it's running and there's systems, and 10 years down the line, you kind of forget how hard it was to get you there. It's a cool journey to go through. But I think what's the biggest challenge? Probably finding good people to join the team. So even though we're in the HR space and we make hiring easier, it's definitely tough to find good people to join the team.
Perfect. Question number 5. Is there any cost involved for small businesses to use the Wamly platform?
Yeah, so Wamly has got a free option for small businesses, so you can put up to 30 interviews a month. You can record completely free on the platform, so you can just head over to wamly.io and sign up for a demo account. But from there, for more functionality, more features, more users, more projects, there's pricing for that, and then it's a per month cloud service.
With people, especially youngsters, being introduced to thousands of opportunities locally and internationally, it's no secret that individuals are looking for well-being rather than money and a 45-hour work week. How do you experience this?
I think it's true, but I think it's a balance between those things. So many companies will say, no, the millennials, the generation X, Z, whatever, they're not so much into the money. They definitely are. And they might join you with a lot of passion and a lot of enthusiasm because you've got a great culture and everything else, but that doesn't last long if you keep paying them peanuts. So I think it's getting a balance, because the flip side is also true. People don't want to work for an organization where they get paid a lot of money but their emotional well-being is completely destroyed. So I completely agree with that, but I think it's about finding balance.
You mentioned millennials. So with millennials being a large part of the workforce...
What are you? Yeah?
Millennial, 31.
Okay.
So with millennials being a large part of the workforce, how do you go about keeping them engaged and making sure that they're happy doing the job that they've been appointed to do?
I think I've been thinking about this a lot. What makes anyone happy? And I think one of the key things that I've discovered, and a lot of people agree with, is growth. That you want to grow as a person, you want to grow as an individual, you want to grow in your career path, and that might not apply for everyone. But even if you're not so serious about growing, I think it is very rewarding to have a path of growth, and it definitely makes you happier. So I think if there's one thing that I can sum up for that, is growth. How can I make my employees feel that they're growing every day? How can I make them feel that they're growing into the positions?
Question number 8. According to the Gallup organization, more than 90% of the Fortune 500 companies encourage and implement strength-based development into their workforce culture. How do you cultivate the right company culture in your businesses?
Yeah, interesting. I think I can just say what we do. So the one thing that we follow is it's Ray Dalio's. He's got a very famous book called Principles, and it's around being radically honest. So it's funny because we think we're honest, but in most cases we're not. And in the workplace and most relationships, you're not 100% honest. If someone does something bad in the workplace, you try and think about, how will they feel if I say it this way? Should I rather say it this way? And we make the problem so much bigger than what the problem actually is, versus just being completely honest with someone and having the space to resolve that conflict. So you would think that's how we live, but it's not how we live. Like if you want to say something to your wife, to your girlfriend, to your boss, you maneuver that conversation to around what they would think and their reaction and everything. And Ray Dalio he built one of the biggest companies in the US, and what he's saying is you need to have a culture of complete radical honesty. And that's what we've implemented across the companies that I'm involved with. And that has helped us so much. It's not easy to do, it's definitely not easy to do, but a couple of years on, it's probably the best thing that we could have done.
In today's day and age, the focus of business owners is changing from managing their employees to coaching their employees. What's your narrative on this approach?
I think the idea is to coach employees. Whether people actually get it right, that's a completely different thing. But what I would say for business owners is managing employees is tough, it's difficult. Coaching employees, definitely tough and difficult. But I think what business owners are missing is that you need to create the structure and the processes so that employees can really manage themselves. So many business owners would say, people are useless, I can't find people to work for me, they always do the wrong thing. No, in most cases, they don't have proper instructions from you on how to do it. So there's a little thing that I always suggest to business owners is that they need to create a manual for their employees where they need to bullet point, explain to the employee exactly what they need to do. And then they need that employee to sign that document and say, you've explained this to me now, I understand it, I sign it. And then when they do something wrong, you go back to that and you say, yeah, you agree that you understood it, but you're not doing it. Or if it's not there, to add it on to the list. But what you soon find out is actually it wasn't on the list in the first place, or you didn't explain it. People aren't bad, or most people aren't bad on purpose, but it's because we don't create the structures and the systems. So you can manage and coach as much as you want. If you don't have that structure in place, it's not going to take you very far.
There's a big debate which is now more relevant than ever, and it has to do with getting a university degree. And yes, of course, we understand if you want to be a professional doctor, engineer, accountant, of course. How important is a university degree in business?
Yeah, I think tertiary education is failing our kids big time. And in accounting, and I've studied accounting and I did my articles, I think that there's a cool path there. You go and study accounting, then you do articles where you get your work experience, and then you're in the industry. And it's a cool flow, and most accountants aren't without work that follow that process because there's a very good bridge between the workplace and university. But most degrees, most professions, they absolutely don't have that. You go and study, I don't know, HR, and then you sit without a job for 5 years, and then you go and become a real estate agent because there's just no jobs for that, or there's no path for that. So I think people who just go and study and then hope that the future will be bright, I think that's completely delusional on that. And so no, I don't think you need a degree, but where I do think it is important is where we can bridge that gap. So me personally, I went and studied through UNISA, my Beancounter accounting, while I was doing articles. And it was the best experience ever for me because I would work at daytime, and then at nighttime we would go and sit in front of the books, and I could apply whatever I was learning to what I did during the day. And I think that's huge. Like if you can do those two things together. And with the internet and information, that becomes so cool because you can study part-time, you can work. And I think that needs to be bigger. Full-time study at a university, personally, I could never understand it because it's not something that I did. And I was always wondering, what are these people doing all the time? Like I'm studying at night, I'm working during the day. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a waste of time.
Question number 11. With competition being fierce in all industries, we understand that business owners are adapting to provide their clients with the ultimate customer experience. We also hear the phrase, the experience revolution. What's the best example of the experience revolution that you've seen from any business over the past few years?
It's interesting, everyone is talking about customer experience, but when last did you really have good customer experience? and especially from big companies. So everyone is going hoo-ha about customer experience, but no one is delivering on that. But everyone is amazing at the sales process, right? Everyone is promising you the earth, the star, and everything in between up until you become a client, and then you're a horrible client, a horrible service provider. So best one for me that I can recently think of is Investec Bank. They're my bank, and they're absolutely great. And what I always love about them is they always think about the next step. I phone the call center and I say, listen, there's a transaction on my card that I'm not aware of, and then they automatically think about the next 5 steps, and they're like, okay, cool, we're going to block it, but we're also going to cancel it. Can we send it to you? Where can we send it to? And they think about everything else that I haven't thought about. So yeah, Investec Bank, they're always great customer service.
The word entrepreneur, as we all know, is the buzzword of our time, but very few people actually understand what it takes to build a successful business. Do you think that entrepreneurs are born, or do you think that anyone can acquire the skill to become a successful entrepreneur?
I always say that first, let's define what is an entrepreneur. And if the definition of an entrepreneur is Bill Gates building Microsoft into a $1 trillion company, then no, everyone can't be an entrepreneur, because everyone doesn't have the appetite and the risk appetite and even the intelligence to do that. So you can't learn that, it's impossible. But if we redefine entrepreneurship and we say, in my opinion, what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is someone who's not working for a payslip. They earn their salary, their livelihood through making their own money. Then I think everyone can become an entrepreneur. And I think we need to redefine what entrepreneurship means, because if we can tell kids in school that to be an entrepreneur, you just need to create a skill so that you can make your own money, then we wouldn't have a 40% youth unemployment rate or 50% or whatever the rate is at now. But we condition our kids that entrepreneurship is about raising 30 million rand of funding so that you can start a business while you've never had a business in your life. And that's wrong. So can we coach people to become an entrepreneur? Yes, to my definition of an entrepreneur.
Question number 13. A few years ago, I actually attended a seminar where you were the keynote speaker back in Pretoria. And I'll never forget how you opened up your talk. And you said you always wanted to earn 30,000 Rand a month. And when that happened, you wanted to earn 50 and then 100. And not soon after that, you were earning R1 million a month at a very young age. And I remember the audience was silent and everybody was just in awe. I think a lot of us wonder how you achieved such remarkable financial success so quickly at such a young age.
I think there's a whole story behind that talk. But a couple of things. I was on a different journey. I was 18 years, I started doing my articles, I started studying through NISA, as I said to you, but I also didn't work 8 hours a day. I was working like 16 hours a day. And then I went home and I studied at night, and I did that for 4 years. So when I was 22, I came to Joburg, I started my first business. But really, I didn't have 4 years of work experience. I probably had like 8 to 10 years of work experience, purely because of the hours that I put into those 4 years. Plus, I studied. So my peers, they went to varsity, they only exited varsity at 22, and then they started their career where they probably worked 8 hours a day. So I was probably 32 in work life where they was at 22. No, I was at 22 when someone normal would be at 32. So I think everyone's journey is different, and we always compare people's ages, and we want to find out how old is someone so that I compare my success to their success and understand, am I ahead or am I behind here? But I think everyone's journey is so different. So how I did it is I just worked a lot harder. I did my studies and my work at the same time. And then when I was 22, I decided I want to start my business. And I did everything in those 2 years, the first 2 years, to actually get that business off the ground. I knew that I had to do this or I was broke and there was nothing else to do. So I just worked really hard. but I think it's sometimes not good to compare your journey to someone just because of age.
With your first book that was published in 2017, 90 Rules for Entrepreneurs, are you planning to release a second book in the near future?
Yeah, I like it the way you said your first book, as if there is a second book. So I think I've shared my lessons now in 90 Rules, and also like I don't want to be in the public, on a public platform as I was in the past. Like that's over for me. I enjoy the behind the scenes now. I am very passionate about certain things, and I've learned a lot of lessons in my life. So I've learned a lot of business lessons, and I've shared that in 90 Rules for Entrepreneurs. But I've also had a lot of lessons in my personal life, in terms of an absent father, in terms of alcohol that has completely destroyed my family and my father. And I've also had personal experiences with psychedelics and other plant medicine that has completely changed my life. So at the moment, I'm thinking very strongly about doing a book about the lessons that I've learned over the last 35 years in my personal life, and telling more of my personal story, to maybe with the idea that just like I've helped aspiring entrepreneurs with 90 Rules for Entrepreneurs, I think I can share lessons from my own life that will help fathers, potential fathers, children, alcoholics, with the lessons that I've learned. So it is something that I've been thinking about.
I believe that you're very into meditation and yoga, and we all know the benefits of that, so we're not going to touch on that. One thing, and you mentioned it now, that's becoming a lot more popular because of the benefits to your mental health, is psychedelics. Can you mention one way that it really benefited you?
Yeah, so for a couple of years, I was reading a lot about psychedelics and like listening to many podcasts, Tim Ferriss, lots of people that I respect, talking about psychedelics, other plants, and the benefits of it. And I was so scared of taking it myself, because I was a capitalist, an entrepreneur, and I thought, sure, I'm going to take this, it's going to change my brain, I'm going to become a hippie and walk around barefoot. And so I was very scared of doing it. And probably about 2 years ago, I had my first big full-on psychedelic experience, and it has completely changed my life, completely. And just from a mental health point of view, the research around it, around depression and anxiety and everything, is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's disgusting. It's a disgrace that it's actually illegal still, and it's something that I also want to contribute to legalize it as far as I can. So personally, it has helped me to deal with a lot of trauma that I knew I had, but even that I didn't know I had. And as I'm sitting here, I'm really happy. I'm like the happiest person that I think I can be. And psychedelics has played a massive part in that.
I know you've read hundreds of books and obviously listened to thousands of podcasts, and I'm sure you also follow other entrepreneurs online. Which international or other local entrepreneurs would you recommend aspiring entrepreneurs listen to?
When there are questions around which entrepreneurs you should listen to, then I always think it's sometimes dangerous to, where you are in your journey, to listen to an Elon Musk and to start implementing those things in your business, because Elon is at a completely different stage than what you are in your business. So what I always say to entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, is go and find someone who's been in your position 12 months ago, because they know exactly how to solve what you're currently struggling with, where other great entrepreneurs might not share that with you. But yes, I follow many entrepreneurs, I love many entrepreneurs. I mentioned Tim Ferriss, that's my only podcast. Like, I listen to Tim Ferriss, and he drops like 1 or 2 episodes a week. And if I'm really done with that, I'll listen to other people. But yeah, I love Tim Ferriss. And then I've also got a lot of respect for people who's got a balanced life. I respect Elon Musk, but I don't want to be Elon Musk. I don't want to work those amount of hours. For me, what success is for me is being super mindful, having a great balance between training and health and work, And I appreciate people who are also in that space.
Have you listened to Joe Rogan's podcasts?
I have. I love Joe Rogan as well, and I love his guests more.
Question number 17, Marnus. What was your biggest regret in your entrepreneurial journey to date?
I did a show for CakeNet a couple of years ago, and at the end of the interview questions, I had rapid fire questions to the entrepreneurs, and one of them is, if you were 18, what would you do, or what would you change? And I think we featured like 10 or 12 entrepreneurs, like big South African entrepreneurs. And what was so cool for me, at the end of the season, all 12 entrepreneurs had exactly the same answer to that question. And it was that I'm so happy with the outcome of everything. And I'm so happy with how everything is right now. And I wouldn't change anything, because then I wouldn't be here. And that was so cool for me, because these great entrepreneurs are all positive, and they see what happened in the past as a stepping stone as to where they are now. And that would also be my answer, that I don't, there's stupid stuff that I've done, and if I had the chance to do it over, I would definitely not do it again. But it was all lessons to take me to the place where I am today, and I'm super happy to be here. No regrets.
Question number 18. There's risk in starting any business, that's no surprise. Have you started any businesses that simply didn't succeed?
I did. There were a couple of businesses where, and it's hard to build a business. And there were a couple of businesses where I, in the beginning phases, realized that this was not going to be so easy as what I thought it would be. And then I pressed the exit button. So it's not that they failed or anything, I just realized that I didn't want to go through that journey. And then there were a couple of businesses where I've invested with entrepreneurs where it completely went pear-shaped for many reasons. I had a vegan restaurant that didn't make it. A restaurant is the most difficult business to be in. It was also a business that I invested in. It was so much fun. We really contributed a lot, but it wasn't a great success. Publicly, I think people might have thought it was a great success because just of the image out there, but we eventually sold that. There was one business that I invested in, and then the guy defrauded me completely by taking the money. There were horror stories, but you don't often hear about that.
Back in 2014, you posted an image on Facebook that read, "Rock bottom has built more millionaires than privilege." Is this something that you can relate to?
Yeah, for sure. I think me personally, I think what motivated me my entire career, especially like my motivation is different now, but when I started out and I started my first business, was like I didn't have everything when I grew up, and it was tough times, and that gave me the drive to actually pull through and to go through the difficult times. So yeah, I definitely think that's true.
Marnus, last and final question. For the second half of this year, what would you recommend, or what would you say should South African entrepreneurs really focus on?
I don't think the second half of the year changes anything. I think at any time you need to have a vision of where you want to go. You need to break that up into milestones and to create little baby steps for that. And then every day you need to wake up, regardless of how bad the previous day was. You need to give it your all to climb those baby steps. And some might take longer, some might take quicker, but eventually you'll get to those milestones. Milestones will add up to your vision. But I think it's so important, and it sounds so common sense, but yet so few people do it. If you go around, ask business owners, listen, where are you going to be in a year? They don't really have an idea. And if they do, and you ask them what are the milestones and the stepping stones, they don't know. So it's such common sense, but I think it's so important.
Marnus, honestly, thank you so much for your time. It's a real privilege having you on the show. If people want to find out more about Wamly or get in touch, or is there any platforms that they can follow for some more value-added content and information?
I'm on Instagram. I deactivated all my other profiles, but I'm on Instagram, Marnus Broodryk. I share more about my cat than what I do about business at the moment, but I am on there. And then for Wamly, it's wamly.io. You can sign up for a free demo account. And if you're a small business, it will be free for you.